Stay
Security
calm.
consultant Derek
Breathe.
Vaughn
The
had been
magic is
assigned to the
healing the
Theshan
wound now.
Royal Delegation
You
for
are
3
safe.
months, providing advisory services on human threat assessment and protective protocols. It was prestigious work, well paid, politically significant, and mostly theoretical. He'd never expected to actually be in a position where those theoretical assessments became practical defense. The diplomatic summit on Station Meridian was supposed to be routine, 15 species representatives discussing trade regulations and resource allocation. Queen Solara of Thesha was there to negotiate mining rights in contested sectors. The attack came during the third day of negotiations, coordinated explosive breaches in multiple sections of the conference venue. Derek's training kicked in before conscious thought: assess threats, identify escape routes, protect principal. Queen Solara was his principal. Derek had noticed the pattern in the breaches. The explosions were designed to funnel attendees toward specific corridors, to create predictable movement that would make secondary attacks more effective. "Your Majesty," Derek said, moving to Solara's position as Theshan guards began their extraction protocols. "The primary route is compromised. We need the service corridors." "My guards have established," Solara began. "Your guards are following predictable security protocols that this attack was designed to exploit," Derek interrupted. "Protocol be damned. Trust me or don't, but the main extraction route is a trap." Solara studied him for 3 seconds that felt eternal, her amber eyes assessing whether to trust a human consultant over her own experienced security detail. "Show me the alternate route." Derek led her through service access that security teams typically ignored: maintenance corridors, environmental systems passages, routes not included in standard evacuation plans. Behind them, Derek could hear combat as the attack unfolded exactly as he'd predicted: concentrated fire in the main corridors where most delegations were attempting evacuation. They were nearly to the docking bay when Derek heard it: the distinctive charge-up sound of a heavy plasma rifle, the kind of weapon designed to penetrate royal armor and shields. He turned, saw the shooter positioned at the corridor intersection, weapon trained directly on Queen Solara's back. Training, instinct, and 3 months of analyzing Theshan security vulnerabilities all crystallized into one decision. Derek threw himself between Solara and the incoming plasma bolt. The impact felt like being hit by a fusion reactor: searing heat, massive kinetic force, pain that overwhelmed every nerve ending simultaneously. Derek felt himself falling, felt the secondary impact as he hit the deck plating, felt Queen Solara's hands catching him before his head struck metal. "Stay with me," Solara commanded, her voice carrying royal authority even in crisis. "Guards medic now." Derek's vision was fragmenting, his body's damage control system screaming warnings. Theshan guards swarmed their position, neutralizing the shooter, establishing defensive perimeter. Through the chaos, Derek stayed focused on Solara's face, the first emotion he'd seen her display in 3 months of professional interaction: fear, genuine, unguarded fear. "You shouldn't have," Solara started. "Job description," Derek managed, his voice barely functional. "Protect principal, successful implementation." "You're human. The plasma bolt was designed for Theshan physiology. Your body can't." "I know." Derek did know. Plasma weapons calibrated for Theshan royal armor would cause catastrophic damage to unprotected human tissue. He was dying. The only question was how long he had before systemic failure became irreversible. The emergency medical bay was chaos: multiple casualties from the attack, overwhelmed staff trying to treat injuries ranging from minor to critical. Derek was definitely in the critical category. Theshan medical technology was advanced, but it was optimized for Theshan biology. The trauma team was doing their best with human parameters, but Derek could see the concern in their expressions. "His cellular structure is destabilizing," one medic reported. "The plasma burn penetrated too deeply. We're treating symptoms, but the fundamental damage is beyond our current protocols for human physiology. Then find new protocols, Queen Solara's voice, unmistakable even through Derek's fragmenting awareness. He took that weapon discharge protecting me. I will not allow him to die because our medical systems aren't optimized for human treatment. Your Majesty, with all respect, we're doing everything possible, but the reality is that a human security consultant sacrificed himself for his principal and deserves every resource we can provide. Contact human medical specialists, get real-time consultation, do whatever is necessary. Derek tried to speak, to tell Solara that she should be focusing on security protocols, on identifying who'd organized the attack, on the political implications. His voice didn't cooperate. Solara appeared at his bedside, her royal composure cracked in ways Derek had never witnessed. She dismissed the medical staff with a gesture. "You're an idiot," Solara said quietly, her hand finding his. "A brave, loyal, tactically brilliant idiot who threw himself in front of a plasma bolt, designed to kill me." "Worked," Derek managed. "You're alive. And you're dying. Acceptable trade-off." "It's not acceptable to me." Solara's grip on his hand tightened. "You've been my security consultant for 3 months. In that time, you've identified 17 vulnerabilities in my protection protocols, prevented 3 potential incidents, and provided threat assessment that my own security chiefs missed. You're valuable, Derek, not just as security asset, as person. You don't get to die because you were better at your job than anyone expected." Derek wanted to explain that this was exactly the outcome security consultants accepted when taking positions protecting high-value principles. He managed, "Not your fault. You wouldn't have been in that corridor if I hadn't trusted your threat assessment over my guards' protocols. You wouldn't have taken that plasma bolt if you weren't protecting me. It's absolutely my fault, and I will not let you die from it." Solara's royal mask had completely fallen away, revealing something Derek had never expected: genuine emotional connection rather than professional courtesy. Over the next hours, Derek's condition continued deteriorating despite every intervention session medical teams attempted. Human specialists were consulted via real-time communication, but the fundamental problem remained. Plasma damage this extensive was nearly impossible to survive. Queen Solara refused to leave the medical bay. Her security chief tried multiple times to convince her to return to secure quarters, to let medical staff work without royal oversight, to focus on the political implications of the attack. She dismissed every suggestion with absolute authority. "I'm staying," Solara said during one particularly intense exchange. "He took a plasma bolt meant for me. The least I can do is remain present while he's fighting for survival." "Your Majesty, your presence doesn't change medical outcomes. You should. I should be exactly where I am. Next person who suggests otherwise can find new employment." The security chief retreated. "You're causing political problems," Derek said during one of his more lucid moments. "Staying here instead of handling aftermath." "The political problems can wait. You're more important right now. I'm a security consultant, you're a queen. The math doesn't support that assessment." "The math," Solara said with something that might have been humor, "doesn't account for the fact that you've shown me more genuine loyalty in 3 months than some advisors have shown in decades. Or that you made a split-second decision to value my life over your own without calculation or hesitation. That matters more than political mathematics. Just doing the job." "No. The job was threat assessment and security consultation. Throwing yourself in front of plasma bolts was considerably beyond contracted obligations." Solara's hand found his again. "Why did you do it, truly?" Derek thought about the question seriously, his fragmenting consciousness trying to find words for the decision that had happened faster than thought. "Because you trusted me when I said the main route was compromised. You trusted human assessment over your own security. That made me invested in keeping that trust justified. So you took a plasma bolt to justify my trust in your threat assessment. When you phrase it that way, sounds less rational. It sounds extraordinarily irrational and impossibly loyal, Solara said, which is why I'm staying here until we know whether the medical teams can stabilize you. You valued my survival over your own. I can value your recovery over political convenience. Through the medical bay's windows, Derek could see the station returning to controlled normality. The attack had been contained, casualties were being treated. He should feel satisfied that his threat assessment had been correct, that his alternate route had saved Queen Solara. Instead, he mostly felt tired and oddly moved that she'd stayed. Derek's condition stabilized after 18 hours of intensive treatment. Not recovered, not healed, but no longer actively dying. The medical consensus was that he'd survived the critical period, though full recovery would take months. Queen Solara was still there when Derek's consciousness properly returned. "You're awake," she observed. "Properly awake, not the fragmentary awareness you've been showing." "How long?" Derek asked. 31 hours since the attack. 29 hours since I was last in my own quarters. My security chief has lodged formal complaints about my refusal to leave the medical bay. You should have left. This isn't appropriate for a queen. What's appropriate is remaining with someone who saved my life. What's appropriate is acknowledging that power and position don't negate basic gratitude and concern. Solara's expression was complicated. "You've changed how I understand loyalty, Derek. My position means people express loyalty constantly, but it's usually calculated, motivated by political advantage or fear of consequences. You showed loyalty that cost you nearly everything without calculation or expectation of reward. I didn't expect to survive, for rewards to matter." "Exactly. You made that choice knowing you probably wouldn't live to see any benefit from it. That's loyalty without calculation, something I've rarely experienced despite a lifetime of people claiming devotion. Just did what seemed right. You've justified my trust beyond any reasonable expectation. And you've taught me something about the difference between performed loyalty and genuine sacrifice." Solara was quiet. "I'm offering you a position, not security consultant, royal guardian. Permanent assignment to my personal protection with authority that supersedes standard security protocols. You've demonstrated judgment I trust more than my own guard's established procedures. That's significant promotion. For someone who barely survived, their first actual protection scenario. You survived because you were better at threat assessment than anyone else present. You identified the pattern, recognized the kill zone, chose alternate routes that saved my life, and personally intercepted the threat that bypassed everything else." Solara's hand found his again. "I'm offering you this position because you've earned it, because I trust you, and because having someone who will actually shield me with their own body feels more valuable than traditional security forces who follow protocols. It might take months to recover. Then you'll recover. I can wait. The position stands whenever you're capable of fulfilling it." Derek thought about going from external consultant to royal guardian, about the political significance, about the implications. "I accept, but on one condition. You're negotiating with a queen while recovering from near-fatal plasma burns." Solara sounded amused. "Brave. Want honesty, not performed gratitude if I'm going to be royal guardian. Need to know you'll tell me truth." "Done," Solara said immediately. "Honesty over political courtesy. I can agree to that. You've earned that level of trust." Over the following months, as Derek recovered and adapted to his role as royal guardian, something shifted. The formal distance that typically existed between royalty and security personnel dissolved into something more genuine. Respect that ran both directions. Trust earned through crisis. "You stayed," Derek said during one private meeting months later, "for nearly 30 hours while I was dying. That transformed everything. You threw yourself in front of a plasma bolt without hesitation," Solara replied. That transformed everything first. I just responded to loyalty with the only thing I could offer, presence and refusal to abandon someone who'd sacrificed everything for me. They stood together in the royal quarters, Derek now fully healed and serving as royal guardian, Solara commanding an empire while maintaining the honesty she'd promised. The attack that nearly killed him had forged a bond neither had anticipated, built on sacrifice, sustained by refusal to abandon each other, and transformed from professional duty into something that bridged the divide between human and Theshan, between